I want to talk about Oliver Turvey, because Oliver Turvey is probably one of the most underrated drivers, and it's already been said by the drivers, in videos when they talk about who you think is the most underrated driver that's not talked about much, and they all went Oliver Turvey, and they're right, because what he's been doing in that NIO, and as that NIO progressively, sadly for NIO, gets worse and worse and worse, and the performance levels aren't really there, he's still managing to get something out of that car, get points, managed to get into Super Pole in Santiago, which was unfathomable when you looked at the testing pace. The team was 1.5 seconds off in Valencia, yet he manages to get the car into Super Pole. Like, Oliver Turvey doing Oliver Turvey things, really. But
And that was something he couldn't do last year as well, so it was
yeah, and
surprising.
if NIO was to stop today, say NIO said, right, we've gone, so we can't race anymore. I really think Oliver Turvey would not get a race seat in a Formula E drive again, or he'd have to wait a season or two, and someone was to drop in and say, "Oh, we need someone with experience." I think he'd miss the cut.
Yeah, and that is a shame to think about. If you think back to the end of season 4, John Paul Drio, who was obviously the boss of the Nissan Edams team before he sadly passed away, he was asked directly, I remember, is Oliver Turvey on your shortlist? Oliver Turvey had got his first podium for NIO at the time and was performing quite well consistently. And he was asked, is Oliver Turvey, because Nico Prost was retiring at the time, and he said that Oliver Turvey is on our shortlist. I remember that was the quote. And so it seems possible that Oliver Turvey has had offers from at least Nissan, if not other teams as well. And I've just you can't see this, but I put the NIO of Oliver Turvey cap that I've got on for this segment. And yeah, it's definitely disappointing as if anyone who's a fan of him to see him struggling in that NIO 333 car. I definitely think that you said they've been going backwards. I definitely think the new ownership of the team is a positive, because under the leadership, the team principal leadership of Jerry Hughes, the team seemed to be going backwards each season. The car was horrible in energy efficiency, and yeah, they've gone for the, as you said earlier, the Dragon Penske powertrain from last year, which is probably not the best one they could have gone for, but at the same time, it feels like they just did that as a sort of stopgap because they couldn't get because NIO were working on their own powertrain for season 6, and then obviously when the 333 China team took over, they obviously weren't impressed by what they saw. Yeah. So it's a question of, is it Oliver Turvey's fault, or is it the team's fault that they've been so far behind, I guess, is sort of the question here.
Yeah, so what boys, in terms of Will or Jack, what I want to sort of say, do you see him, if NIO was to go, or say NIO was to replace him for whatever reason, right? I don't see that happening, but let's say it happened, right? Would you see Oliver Turvey getting a new seat? I find, as I said, I would love to see it because I think he deserves it. But at the same time, I can see him being forgotten.
Yeah.
If you look at the grid, there are definitely some drivers who I think he would do better than in the current seat. So if you look at Felipe Massa at Venturi, he's not getting any younger. I would hazard a guess that Turvey could potentially do a job there. Potentially in the second seat at Jaguar. And there are a few other spots. Neither of the Geox Dragon drivers are impressing. All of these teams could potentially consider him. I mean, he has a really good record in what's been a particularly poor car, and none of those drivers are performing in what's much better machinery at the moment.
Yeah, but you mentioned Felipe Massa at Venturi. I feel like the problem there is Oliver Turvey's not as big a name as Felipe Massa, and that's... I'm not saying the entire reason that Massa has the seat, but it's definitely a factor that he is Felipe Massa, 11-time Formula 1 winner.
But that's the thing, it's like, I can't...
tested for McLaren.
I agree with you in that sense. Like, I can't see him displacing Massa, but it's just like, Massa is pretty old now.
I agree, from a performance point of view, I definitely think Turvey is your better option.
Yeah, but I think in terms of performance, I think Turvey, and you have to think Formula E experience as well. Like, Turvey's been it since the end of season in London, so he's been with that team since he's
end
not
of season
had a
1,
different team. He's not had a different team. He's been, obviously the team name has changed. The team name has changed. It was Next EV and it's become NIO, and now NIO 333. So the team name has changed. But in terms of his experience, I think he's got right to have, you know, a chance of maybe that Jaguar seat that you were talking about, because obviously James Collard has come in, he's struggled to get to grips with it, he's had good performances in the race, struggled in qualifying, and that's where Turvey shines, and he shines in the race as well. So you'd think if you put Oliver Turvey in the Jaguar alongside Mitch Evans, you'd have a great team. You might have Mitch Evans might be the super quick one, but you know Turvey would be there backing him up. So I'm sure that, you know, it would work. I understand that. I think that would be a great fit for Oliver Turvey. But what I find mostly is when drivers find themselves at the back of the grid, stuck in sort of limbo with one team that's not performing well, and they sort of just get forgotten about because new talent come in, new talent performs well, people want new drivers sometimes, and drivers like Oliver Turvey sometimes just get left behind.